Step outside.
Greetings to everyone. Thank you so much for blessing us this evening at the IndigenousWays Wisdom Circle. Before we kick off, I just want to take this time to acknowledge the traditional caretakers and ancestors of the lands that we reside on in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and also to wherever you're beaming in from, acknowledge the traditional caretakers and ancestors of the lands that you're in. My name is Elena, and this is Tash. We are with IndigenousWays, where we're dedicated to bridging cultural exchange with people globally. And we're really honored before we kick off this evening to just let you know that we started the virtual events on April the 1st. And we're beaming out twice a week with the Wisdom Circle and also the concert series that we were doing. We have since switched the concert series to the third Saturday of the month, but we have archived over 68 performers, predominantly Native American, Indigenous, deaf, and hard of hearing, and from the LGBTQIA communities, and also friends of others. And so that's what we've been doing since April. We would like you to consider at this stage for our end of year campaign, which will go through to the the end of the month, if you want to donate. All our virtual events have been free, simply because we want everyone to have access to that, as well as all of our events have ASL interpreters. And also we realize where everyone's at the moment. If you're unable to, we are just stoked that you're here. So if you're in with us through our Zoom platform, welcome. Welcome if it's your first time. If you're watching live on the multitude social media that we have, we are so thrilled that you're here. And if you're watching the video archives on this, whether that be on our Facebook, IndigenousWays.org, or through the recordings on all the social media, thank you so much for your time and watching.
And as always, we are grateful to be here this evening. IndigenousWays is dedicated to bridging cultural exchange with people globally. So this is a wonderful platform for that this evening. We're so grateful to have Cassandra Perez, with us this evening. I have known Cass for a very long time, and I just have so much respect and love for Cass because of her walk in life. She's a strong young woman with an old soul that's filled with so much wisdom. We have all learn from Cass this evening, whatever she's going to share with us. So Cass does a lot of stuff. She does river rafting guiding. She does artwork. She's actually the first artist that created artwork for IndigenousWays Beauty Way Music and Arts Festival in Chinle, Arizona 3 years ago. And she made this amazing design that we used for our posters. It was all over the reservation. I mean, me and Elena, we were going into chapter houses, clinics, trading post stores, and we were just posting Cass's work all over the reservation for this amazing festival. So Cass has many talents. She's a mother, and nothing stops Cass. Cass rocks. Let's give it up for Cass, everybody. Yeah!
Woo!
Folks, good evening and hello. I'd like to thank Tosh and Elena for their very, very kind words. Almost elicited a tear from me. They were so tender. And of course, it's natural to have stage fright. And so I must admit, I have screen fright. I'm a little nervous and jittery, but I feel like I might even lose my words. But give me just a second to pause. And as Tosh just mentioned, I am involved in various roles. And she's right. One of those is as a mother to two children, one 7, the other 11. I am also a farmer. And I'm a ski technician as well. I'm an activist. I'm an artist. And like Tosh said, oh, yes, one of the other many roles I perform is a teacher. I teach ASL in a private school here in Santa Fe for the 3rd to 8th grade. And so I do teach in that arena. And so Tosh is right. I have multiple roles. I am born and raised here in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I became deaf around when I was 16 months old. I lost my hearing. So I went and graduated from a deaf school. I don't really have a huge title or a huge accomplishment in my life, right? I would say I'm an insignificant person, but it's your decision as to what I mean to you. I want to talk briefly about my parents' background so you can get an understanding of where I come from. My mom, her background, she's mixed Cree from Canada, Montana area. She's mixed with French. And my dad, he is from Mexico, northern part of Mexico. Now, we're not really sure which tribe or group. And it seems like Tarahumara is a possibility, or even Yaqui. But like I said, we're not really sure, but it's in that general area. So I am a mixture of various different types of blood, all inhabiting this one body. And I like to mention that tonight as I speak. I will speak from both perspectives as well. I will talk from a colonizer perspective and a decolonization perspective because I have a background of both. And quite often, my identity is confusing to me and ambiguous because I'm not dark enough and I'm also not light-skinned enough. So I'm somewhere in between. And I also have many hats and roles that I play. So tonight, my goal is to talk about decolonization and how we can survive through today's difficult times in our lives. And also, I just want to let you know, I keep looking down because I have my notes right in front of me. My journey with decolonization doesn't have a specific time frame where it began. It's really indefinite. And again, time is a construct and a concept. So when this originally began, I'm unsure. I think I was subconsciously decolonizing, but I didn't have the words to be able to put to it until much later in my life. First, I'd like to talk about what decolonization is. I will use a reference out of this book, and let me show that book on the screen. And the book is titled For Indigenous Minds Only, a decolonization handbook. Written and adapted by various people, but for this book, it's Waziata Win, which might be tough to pronounce. Waziata Win and Michael Yellowbird. This book details how to decolonize mentally, emotionally, through your heart, and through the land, and various other multiple ways. And so it is one of my favorite books on decolonization. And in the book, there's a definition of what decolonization means. And it says that it is the meaningful and active resistance to the forces of colonization that perpetuate the subjugation or exploitation of our minds, bodies, and lands. The colonization portion focuses on land and through institutions and through education and through economics, as well as behavioral control. And I wonder if there's any other facets that I'm forgetting. Yes, ideals. So colonization functions through that. Decolonization is a mental and emotional activity that is also tied into the land as well. So I will define what decolonization means to me now. I never had that term applied to myself in my childhood until I went to Standing Rock. I will mention how Standing Rock applies next, but let me tell you about my life before Standing Rock just a bit. I lived in the Chihuahuan Desert for 7 years in West Texas. I was near the Mexican border. And while living here, I lived the simplest way possible, meaning no electricity. I use candles. My kitchen is outside for my cooking, outdoors. And I also carried my own water or captured water from the rain. Also, I didn't have a phone for several years. Friends talk about getting a new upgrade and a new phone, and I was so far out in the desert working the land, I didn't have that. I also grew my own food. And there used to be a community of gardening masters at that time. And I was there for 7 years, and I thought I understood life and the purpose of life. I felt that I was enlightened at that point. And I thought for 7 years, I just dove in so deep into the experience, these different experiences, living in the desert, right? I'm sure you understand the desert can be a magical place, and we all know that. So I spent my 7 years there along my journey. And during those 7 years, I started not actually decolonizing because I didn't have that term present yet. But I do remember making a mental decision to not celebrate holidays. For me, while growing up, holidays were a traumatic experience. And speaking to wintertime holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas, those were a bit traumatic to me. And basically, in a nutshell, I felt like I was left out my whole life with my hearing family and relatives. So that trauma made me resist those holidays, very resistful to them. And unfortunately, the holidays were at the winter time, which is a beautiful time of the year, because during that time of the year is when seeds need to freeze in order to start the new cycle. When the dirt remineralizes and is ready for the next growth cycle. And it's also a time to make candles so we can have light in our life. And it's time to make warm soup. And that's how it should be. But that wasn't the case for me. It was traumatic. My childhood was traumatic by not having those experiences, which made me resistant to the holidays. And I think that was the beginning of my decolonization journey. Let's fast forward a few years to Standing Rock. Now, notice the word decolonization keeps coming up as I speak. I keep mentioning it throughout my life. And it did hit me. And I thought, is this what I've been doing? Have I been decolonizing myself? And through some research, I found that handbook that I just showed you on the screen, right? Once I found that book, I felt like I had been rewarded with that complete understanding of what I had been doing and was able to fully decolonize myself. With that, myself and my kids went to Standing Rock. We were there for 7 days. Well, a week, actually. Let me just say we were there for a week. And that week, wow, it was really mind blowing. The 7 years of life that I spent in the desert, that enlightened time in my life, it was just blown away by 1 week at Standing Rock. It was incomparable. And I felt like it was a true waking experience for me being at Standing Rock. And I think it's because I showed up with the idea of just sitting down and not necessarily doing something. And really, let me explain that. During Standing Rock, there were various people showing up ready to present activity and walking around in circles, looking to produce some type of activity. And I thought to myself, that's not the way. When the elders welcome us to come join their prayers, those ongoing prayers, that's not the way it works. So for me, that helped me understand truly what decolonization meant. So after that week, I continued talking about decolonization with friends, with other people, and I developed for myself little posts for discussions on what colonizing versus decolonizing meant. And so because of the recent pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic just recently, we are under stay-at-home orders, and we are almost all staying at home during this time. And through that time, I've been able to put a lot of reflection into my thoughts, along with Black Lives Matter and with the land back protests as well. With both of those on my mind, I've put a lot of thought and have seen a lot of people also introspecting as to what the right decision to be made is, or how to improve oneself. And I see that happening to folks around me. And I started asking myself, how can I stop benefiting from the system? Keep in mind that as I continue to benefit from the system will continue to benefit from myself or from us that benefit from it. And I can provide some examples to explain that. For example, growing up and going to school and then going to college, getting a college loan, moving on to getting employment. Now that employment is a benefit from the system, that money you earn from your employment. While you are benefiting with that earning, the system benefits from you as well. Because the system makes you put in 40 hours a week and it makes you work hard. So that is a resource that you invest into the system. And so I started reaching out to friends of mine and asked, how can we stop benefiting from the system itself? Recently, for myself, I've got two constants that continue to arise. And it makes me realize, well, let me point it out. People say, Cass, you're so smart. You are just so smart, Cass. Why don't you go to school? Why don't you get a degree? Why don't you get a job? I sit there when I'm told that and I think, well, I know if I get a degree, I would benefit so much that others wouldn't have that benefit. And I feel that's unjust and wrong. If I benefit from that system, I know that the system will benefit from me. And that's where I'm put off. That's where I can't participate. Another example I can provide is last summer, there was a new movie that put out a request looking for actors They had ads asking for actors, and sometimes in those search criteria, they are looking for a Native American person or a person with dark skin. And I've had two friends reach out to me with an ad and say, hey, there's a particular film crew looking for a Native American person. And I decided not to take advantage of those benefits. I turned them down and rejected them. They just were not for me. So to me, it's interesting how many people don't realize the benefits that they realize from the system. Now, to stop benefiting from the system, you need to start decolonizing yourself. I'd like to return to talking about farming. For me, farming is incredibly active resistance. Okay, so keep in mind, I just mentioned that we benefit from the system and the system benefits from us. Now, instead, we should benefit from the earth because the earth will benefit from us. That is where I would like to mention farming. A huge dream of mine is to expand farming. Expanding to where it's big enough to be able to sell to a retail market, or developing a community farm, and not so much a community farm, I think that's the wrong term, but developing community education on farming for other people to benefit from those resources and knowledge. And I also want to briefly mention and talk about Green Fire Time newspaper. This newspaper focuses on the Southwest area, Southwest ranchers and different small communities throughout that area in New Mexico. And they discuss the various different technologies and methods of farming. One article in particular has mentioned that during the pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic, many dairy farms and meat farms, as well as huge monocrop farms, are failing and are losing food supply and are having catastrophic effects financially. And meanwhile that is going on, here in New Mexico, the small farms are actually thriving. They are thriving because they have that ancestral knowledge on how to grow food, and they actually can feed many people here in the New Mexico area with those techniques. Food depots. Food depots for free food distribution for low-income families in the community have robust amounts of food that they're able to supply the community. And that's where I have a heartfelt yes. Yes, that's a direction I want my life to navigate and continue in. And continue in that act of decolonization. I realize I'm talking just a little quick. Yeah, I'm looking now and realizing I'm talking just a little quick. So perhaps I can expand on what I've said just a bit more. Yeah, I'll just continue talking about decolonization within the deaf community. That was another thing that happened for me this summer. BLM, Black Lives Matter, was one, and the other was the land back protests. And then a third was the deaf community. You know, we're not on the spotlight, not at all, but within the deaf community, oh my goodness, there are huge conversations occurring. And what happened during the summer to create those conversations for people who are uninformed? Gallaudet University, which is the only deaf university in the entire world for deaf individuals, they provide teaching in American Sign Language. Well, let me re-say that. They serve American Sign Language users. Other colleges and other universities have programs, sub-programs, but Gallaudet University is a university basically for deaf people by deaf people. And so there are fraternities and sororities at Gallaudet, and we started having a conversation as to how the sororities and fraternities colonize our rather small deaf community. So the way they do that, and I can provide several examples here. I do have 5 different examples. One is the fraternities and sororities colonize the deaf community through 1, behavior, 2, through ideas, and 3, through institutions, 4, through economics, and 5, via politics. Now, I'd like to take a micro look at some of the issues that are happening here for me, for myself. And these are my feelings and experiences, and I don't speak for the entire community. I'm speaking solely to my personal feelings on this. Because I'm in New Mexico, there are many Native Americans, Hispanics, or Mexicans, and there are a few people who are Black. Now, within the deaf community here in New Mexico, it seems to be dominated from white people from Gallaudet who are members of fraternities and sororities, also holders of degrees, higher education degrees. And for me, again, I say many times I refuse to benefit from the system, which means I refuse to provide myself a college education. And I'm sorry, I'm getting my story mixed up. Let me just back right up real quick. I found my spot. I'm sorry. I had to collect my thoughts. Those people seem to consider themselves in a higher position than us because they expect us to go to college and get those jobs and keep up along that race. And I see that as an act of colonism. And I would like to respond and say that's not what New Mexico deaf folk need. We need to be decolonized. And when I say that, by that, I mean that we need to return to our old ways. That means we need to learn about agriculture, farming, how to live off the land, how to support our community. So, as I mentioned, how that really, those goals that those other individuals with degrees have really throw a wrench in our ecosystem. And so I feel like I bark a lot about that, and I keep making noise, and I keep asking, why are you doing this to us? Why are you doing to our community? But on the opposite side of that, the response is, what are you talking about? They just don't seem to understand what's happening. So in my perspective, that's what I see. I see that they don't see the benefits they draw from the system, and they're so drawn into it that they just don't see that. And so for me to decolonize, that is a huge and long journey that requires a lot of self-assessment and a lot of unpacking. And really identifying where to start your journey of decolonization is difficult. It can be ambiguous. There's so many areas or many places that one could start. And so I feel that an easy place to start with, you can start with holidays, or you can start with the educational system, or you can start with economics. You can also start with where you source your food from, and you can even start with how you dress. You can also start with what you read, and there are many entry points to begin your decolonization journey in general. I think that decolonization itself is a lifetime journey that requires a commitment, and that dedication to decolonization, you're actually dedicating and committing to yourself. You're dedicating and committing to the community that you live with, and you're making a dedication to our Mother Earth. And I was just double checking to make sure I didn't miss anything.
Yes, we're switching interpreters now. Okay. I just got to switch the interpreter on my screen. Okay. So yes. So again, I would like to go back to what I was discussing before. So discussing myself as the colonizer as well as decolonizing. I think maybe many of you feel the same as I do. We have to agree to continue to recognize the colonizer and how we can stop benefiting from the system, as well as decolonizing. We have to continue to evaluate ourselves, to assess ourselves, and how we are part of the system. And I think I've said enough. I feel like I'm a person of action instead of a person of words. So if we'd like to have an open discussion with you all, I would like to do that. If you have any questions. I feel like I'm a person of action. We'd like to have an open discussion. Maybe Elena and Tosh.
All right. Thank you very much, Cass. Wow. I'm absolutely blown away with your construct of decolonization and colonization, and how inadvertently we consciously or unconsciously mainstream in and out of that way of thinking. So for me, I come from Black Mountain on the Navajo Nation. It's dirt roads, no running water, no electricity. So that farming and the life with sheep and cattle and lots of animals around to keep everything going, like the sheepdogs are super sacred and all that is really good. So I just got this beautiful vision of you out in the country, and I have a general idea of where you live. The landscape is very panoramic and vision, and beautiful sunsets, I imagine, where you're living. And wow, that just looks like a beautiful place to be. So I'm very happy for you to be in the country and not directly living in Santa Fe. That's beautiful. So Cass, I want to thank you very much for joining us tonight. You've given me, and I think many other people, many things to think about. And it's very profound, and it's very real. And it's like Tewa Women United, pulling stuff out from underneath the rug and putting it out there for people to think about. And that's what I really respect about organizations, nonprofits, and people like yourself walking on this planet, our beautiful Mother Earth, with consciousness. So in my language, we say, thank you very much. Take care of yourself in the beauty way. Take care of yourself. You're beautiful. Thank you very much. And I'm going to pass it over to Elena to talk about the commercial break.
Well, thank you so much for that, Cass. And just before we invite all our Zoomsters to turn their cameras on, we just want to let you know what is happening. So You know, believe it or not, next week we're coming to the end of the year. For some of us, it'll be like, oh my God, thank God, 2020 is over. But you know what? We're very excited because we've got an award-winning author who will be joining us next week at the Wisdom Circle. Chip Livingston is Two-Spirit and Cree, so he's going to be sharing his rising and resilience through the pandemic. So we're very excited for that. So make sure if you haven't already put it in your calendar, please do. Above my head, you'll see our website, IndigenousWays.org, IndigenousWays.org. There you will see the up and coming people who will be in the new year. We've got a new program. We're very excited about that. I guess it's okay to say what our theme is. We're looking at thriving and purpose as we go into 2021 with all the presenters who will be blessing us both through the Wisdom Circle, where we are now every Wednesday, and also through Saturday, the third Saturday of each month, we have the concert series. There you will also be able to pick up Cass's video from tonight, which will be there in 24 hours. If you want to be on our newsletter, with amazing things that we're doing through the organization, go to the website and sign up to the newsletter that goes out every week. And then flashing below us, you'll see the screens of social media that we have. If you're in social media now, please like our page. If you haven't, that's Indigenous Ways 501c3 on Facebook. Any other pages that you might be on, please like those pages through our social media sites. All the presentations that we've done through the virtual events are free. They're free because of the incredible sponsors that we're very blessed to be able to support, the presenters and also our ASL interpreters. So I want to give a shout out to the Native American Advised Fund, the Santa Fe Community Foundation, the National Endowment of the Arts, the Westaff Cares, the New Mexico Humanities Council, and also the National Endowment of Humanities. Also want to give a big shout out to our wonderful board, and also those incredible people here in the Zoom and also out there in cyberspace and in our communities that have also funded our habit to keep coming on the air. And so what we can do, one of the things that Cass talked about was decolonization journey. So if you're able to give at this time, we've got our end of year fund going on at the moment. You can go to our website at donate, or else here's the information over here. And one of the things that we're going to be looking at next year is doing a festival online, a weekend festival. So all the stuff that we've been doing through the virtual events, but doing it on a multitude of level. So Cass, thank you so much for talking about the decolonization. We're going to invite everyone who is in Zoom, if you'd like to, flick on your cameras. This is the opportunity to do now of some thoughts that may have come in that Cass may have awoken you to, or you want to clarify a few things, or maybe you want to say hi to her, or just check in. This is the time now. So if you start your videos up, and all those amazing people that have got low bandwidth and you're unable to get on Zoom, if you want to throw a comment in the social media that you're on, we'll share that with you. And then if you're just looking at this, the recording of this, we're really grateful that you're here with us. So, and you won't be able to answer the questions, but just see what's going on. So hopefully your question will be answered tonight. But we're very grateful that everyone is spending this time with us. So thank you for that.
All right. Does anybody want to raise their hand? You can send a raise your hand, or you can just raise your hand on the screen, or you can just talk. Hey, Tristan, what's up? All right. On the screen. Does anybody want to raise it? Hey, Tristan, what's up? Or you can just raise your hand.
Yes, I'm realizing
Or you can just talk.
that my story was very fast. There's a lot of information that I was throwing out at you. But again, I'm a very social person. Yeah, I much prefer communicating with everyone on a more social basis as opposed to me presenting and things like that. But if you have any thoughts, anything you would like to discuss, go right ahead.
I'd love to hear from Candy. Candy, what's up?
Well, I ordered the book. It sounds so, or it looks to be so fascinating. And I recognize the name as being an Ojibwe name, but the author herself is actually Dakota. And this is really fuel for thought, and the idea that having greater agency and not supporting a system which is literally killing all of us by making food, by growing food and connecting with the land is just a very inspiring, laudable cause. And I too share in her appreciation of Greenfire Times, which is struggling horribly. So if anyone wants to donate, they are taking donations, I can tell you that. I'm thinking of advertising my practice in March. I already sent a letter to Seth. I'm a therapist and I do ecotherapy. And obviously working in the garden is ecotherapy too. So thank you for your inspiring, heartfelt, and really well thought out words and thoughts, and lit a fire. Heartfelt and really well thought out words and thoughts, and
Yes, thank you.
fire.
Yes, I've come a long way through my journey. It's been enlightening. Yes, and Tristan, I saw your hand go up. What's up?
I was giving the, the Black Panther signal.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I actually haven't seen that movie yet, but I did recognize that movement, yes. So anyway, Tristan says, I've noticed your approach to how you to do decolonize. But I am a white man, so I'm curious, what approach do you think would be best for me to be able to do this, to not colonize people? And Cass said, that's a great question. So many people really ask themselves, how can I reduce my act of colonizing? And so there's a few different examples that I can give. So it can happen through your behavior. It also happens through your economics, your ideas and ideals, through your politics, as well as your institution. So there's a whole lot of things involved in your colonizing. So you have to think of where you benefit from the system. So I'm not really telling you what to do with your life. That's not what I'm trying to do. But for me, it's really important to be humble. Well, okay, maybe that's not a good example. It's really important to be humble. Well, okay, maybe that's not a good example. Because we buy things throughout our lives. We buy food, we buy gas. There's so many things that we buy. We buy things throughout our lives. And so maybe we can go through our expenses and see what we shouldn't be buying. And so maybe for me, our expenses what we shouldn't be buying. Instead of buying food at the store, I grow it myself. And so it really depends. Instead of buying food at the store, I grow it myself. maybe going to the pharmacy to buy medication that can be expensive, and you can be giving it to the system that way. You can try different forms of medication. It's really a hard question, honestly. You can try different forms of medication. It's really a hard question. Doing acts of colonization for me as you're celebrating the holidays, and maybe to grow your own food would be a good option. As you're celebrating for myself. And of course, you can't be 100% disconnecting from the system and everything like that. It is hard, but you do what you can. So that's a good question. You can't be 100% disconnecting from the system.
Awesome. Thank you very much. That was a really good question. Tristan, I really appreciate hearing you say that. I'm going to go really quickly over here, Cass, to let you know what social media is saying. A beautiful sister of ours here in Santa Fe who helped start the Women's Land called ARF, A-R-F for Frank. Her name's Amber Garland, and she says, yes, the assumption that Eurocentric education is important is a disservice to everyone. Nothing wrong with academic study, but it's not particularly vital to most lives. Clean water and healthy hearts and spirits are way more useful. And then there's Janie Emmerman from New York City. Thank you, Cass. So much to digest and think about. I garden, so to me there is nothing better than planting a seed in the late spring and watch them grow with the help of light, water, and me whispering to them. Any thoughts on that for you, Cass?
Yes. I would like to respond to the first person. What was, I missed the acronym.
ARF, A-R-F, like Arfer, dog. Arf, arf.
I would like to respond to the first person. What was, I missed the acronym. ARF. Okay. And the name of the woman who commented?
There's been many different.
Amber.
Yeah, her name is Amber. Amber, she's.
Okay. Amber, okay, yes.
Name of the woman who commented? There's been many different. Amber. Yeah, her name is Amber.
Yes, that's a really good point about the Eurocentrism or Eurocentric focus in schools. Yeah, there's just so many things that it deals with. For example, the national forests. They let the cows graze in the land in the national forests. And they also allow controlled fires, controlled burns.
Prescribed.
Prescribed. Mm-hmm. And that's a Eurocentric approach, allowing the cows to graze.
It's for erosion control.
Yeah, so I'm not really comfortable with that idea myself. But here in America, people are used to doing things their own way. So that's another idea, just to enjoy the national forests but not to really support the Eurocentric approach.
All right, thank you very much. Oh.
But not to really, yeah, because honestly, Eurocentrism can be found in many different places, and it's often overlooked.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, because honestly,
all right, thank you, Amber, for your comment, and thank you, Cass. Does anybody else want to share any thoughts tonight before we call it a night? Thank you, Cass. Tonight. All right. Well, you know what? We are just absolutely delighted that we had the courageous Cass say yes to this invite to speak some beautiful, beautiful, sacred words. So thank you, Cass, and we are just rooting for you in your walk. If there's anything we can do to support your movement with the farm, please contact us. We'd love to be involved on some level. So thank you very much. You've got our contact information. And does anybody want to say anything?
Yes, I'll keep that in mind.
Be involved on some level. So Kat Albert, contact information. And does anybody can you unmute your microphone? Kat Albert.
Hello. Thank you so much. It was a beautiful presentation. Hello. Thank you so much. It was
That you agree and that you came.
All right. Hey, Hilda. Nice to see you. Do you want to say some words? We have time. All right. Hey. Yeah, Hilda. Nice to see you. Do you want to say some words? We have time.
Yeah, so Hilda says, I really appreciate
Hilda.
your philosophy. And thank you so much for presenting today. So thank you. Thank you. And
all right.
So much for your perspective, and we bless you for presenting today. It says, thank you. Thank you. And
all right.
For your perspective. Yes, so Cass says that we will have a lot more to discuss later. But thank you for, yes, so Cass says that we will have a lot more to discuss later.
Awesome. So good to see you, Hilda. Oh my gosh, you are such a rock star to me, woman. I just love you and your partner. Awesome. So thank you for joining us from Wisconsin. Yeah, love you so much, Hilda. Thank you, and happy holidays, everybody, to the best of your ability. And me and Elena don't buy gifts, so we don't have any gifts for each other, but everybody else enjoy. We want to let you all know that we are very grateful for our ASL interpreters, always for being dedicated. A few of them are on tonight, so thank you all for being here tonight. We really, really appreciate. We want to thank everybody on our social media sites, and a big, big thank you to Cass, and we love you. Give it up for Cass, everyone. Love, love, love.
Touch the earth, touch the earth, touch the earth.